Good morning, everyone. What you are looking at here is I guess you could say, a pamphlet from the Voice of the Martyrs magazine. And I subscribe to this magazine. Actually, it's a free subscription when you order a book or anything of that nature, or you give to the ministry. And a while back, I ordered the Fox's Book of Martyrs, which I highly recommend that people get while they still can, if they don't have it. The Fox's Book of Martyrs, it's called, and it's a very inspiring book of, through the ages of so many, martyrs for Christ who made the ultimate sacrifice and courage, and they, what can I say? I mean, they made the ultimate sacrifice. Let's just put it that way. And this young man here, this is the profile of courage, in this month's Voice of the Martyrs magazine. And Lisa Lisa from Sabbath Seekers referred to him in her latest video, The Coming Harvest, which is just an absolutely excellent video if people have not heard that from Lisa from Sabbath Seekers. The Coming Harvest is what the video is called. And she put that up a few days ago. I shared it to my community page, but I told Lisa, because she kind of apologized, or at least explained, the tone that she had in that. I told her, I said, there's nothing to apologize for. Your tone was perfect. Lisa and I are pretty good friends, if people don't know. So, before you bash Lisa, you're bashing me, whatever, if anybody cares. But, yeah, Lisa is like a sister to me, as well as several other people. And she did an excellent video. And, and she referred to this young man in her video. And I was, the video I made yesterday was not the video I wanted to make. It was kind of a necessity, but I really didn't want to do it. The one I wanted to do is the one I'm doing today. And I wasn't even sure about that, but then when I checked the mail yesterday, I got this in the mail. It's kind of a confirmation for me to do a video on courage. So anyway, I'm going to read this short thing to you here, and then there's a much longer article with more detailed information in the magazine itself, The Voice of the Martyrs. Like I said, people can subscribe to this. I think there's a website down here somewhere. Maybe not right there, but anyway, I think it's like voiceofmartyrs.org, or, just kind of do your own research. But anyway, so I'm just going to read this briefly to you. This was John Chow's quote. You guys might think I'm crazy in all this, but I think it's worth it to declare Jesus to the people. John Chow, November 16, 2018. As a teenager, John Chow sensed God calling him to take the gospel to the people of North Sentinel Island. For 9 years, he prepared himself to go to the island, live among the people, learn their language, and share Christ with them. John knew the risk. He knew the Sentinelese had been violent toward visitors before, but he also knew God had called him to go. I believe that the measure of success in the kingdom of God is obedience. Now I want to stop here for a second, because recently I did a video on obedience, and it pretty much got no views, very few comments, and that's pretty much what I expected. You put out intel information, what you think is going to happen, what might happen, what you believe is going to happen. People pay attention to that so they can mock and scoff when it doesn't. Or, if some things do come to pass, they say, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. But when you put something out, a teaching, you read the Word of God, you share something of this nature, people, for the most part, they just aren't interested. Those videos get the lowest amount of views and comments, and because people don't want to hear about obedience. But I want you to pay attention to how many times the word obedience comes up in John Chow's testimony here, and how important I believe the Father, wants us to know, obedience is to him. Like I said in that video on obedience that I did, obedience is the key, is the name of the video. 76 times, I think it was 74 times, the word obedience is mentioned in the Word of God, whether it be the Old and New Testament. 74 times total. Anyway, I believe that the measure of success in the kingdom of God is obedience, John said shortly before his death. I want my life to reflect obedience to Christ and to live in obedience to him. I think that Jesus is worth it. He is worth everything. So just right there, obedience, obedience, obedience. 3 times in just that small paragraph. That's that small that small explanation from John Chow. 3 times he mentions the word obedience. And then down here too. This month, join Christians around the world in honoring John's sacrifice and be inspired by his obedience. May we follow his example of obedience to Christ's call to go into all the world at any cost. So there it is. There's the website, vom.org/martyr. So anyway, I wanted to bring this to people's attention, the story of John Chow. And like I said, in this month's or the latest issue of the Voice of the Martyrs magazine, there's a much larger, longer article in it. I'm not going to read to all you guys. You might even be able to pick this up at a local church. Some churches have them, but like I said, you can research that on your own. So what I want to talk to you all about today is, the last ounce of courage, basically, true profiles in courage. What is true courage? And, this man, John Chow, a lot of people thought he was crazy. There's he even says it right here. You guys might think I'm crazy and all this, but I think it's worth it to declare Jesus to the people. He probably had a very good inclination that he might die, and he did, and he died a violent death. And but that didn't stop him. And some people say, well, that's nuts. No, he wanted to preach the gospel. He wanted to tell people about Jesus. To him, it was worth the cost. You have to count the cost when it comes to declaring Jesus. And a lot of people, they talk about courage. You mention the word, you hear the word a lot, but what is true courage? I've been thinking about this over the last few days, and I I went through some things. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna tell you some things. Personal things from my family. I mean, not too personal. Just some stories, just some information, I guess. I'm gonna share some things with you that are important to me, and I think you might find a little interesting. Okay, so here it goes. I don't have a man cave or anything like that, okay, because my place is pretty small here, but what I've done is, I inherited some things, when my grandmother passed a few years ago, and I've kind of set them up to kind of display, because I thought they were kind of cool, and I just thought it'd be pretty nice to display some things, and I'm just going to share it with you all. My grandmother passed 2017, and then I inherited a lot of things from my granddad, who actually passed years prior, in 94. I was only 24 years old at the time, but my granddad was a World War II Korean War veteran. He actually flew in the war, and he was what was called an Airedale in the Navy. And, he received quite a few medals, decorations, and so forth. So I'm going to share some things with you guys, because my granddad was a very courageous man. Like many veterans, he never really talked about it too much, but you knew what he did without him talking about it. And he was just very, very courageous. Wasn't everybody's cup of tea. He was a hard man, but a very courageous man, and he sacrificed a lot. And one of the things that always intrigued me about him, especially since we're in hurricane season now, is my granddad was called a hurricane hunter. So he actually flew in the planes going into the eye of the hurricane. So you talk about bravery, you talk about courage. to fly into a situation like that. Not only flying in the war and so forth, as what, like I said, what the Navy refers to as an Airedale, but flying into the hurricane. I mean, to the eye of the hurricane. So you gather the best information and so forth, and try to save as many lives as possible. That's courage. That's guts. That's true courage. So anyway, I just want to share a few things with you here. Okay, I mean, some people might find this cool, and other people are like, give me a break. But anyway, I'm just going to share a few things with you that just have to do with I think what's true courage. So here we go. Okay, so first thing here we have here is the flag that was presented to my grandmother upon my grandfather's death here. And I've got his dog tags from the war here, okay? And then on the side of this here, it says R.H. Roberts. Can't really see it here. Let me move this over. There we go. ADJC, which is a chief petty officer in the Navy in East 7, okay? U.S. Navy, 1942 to 1952. Okay, that's what that says. R.H. Roberts, ADJC, U.S. Navy, 1942 to 1952. So yeah, he was a chief petty officer, and anybody knows anything about Navy rank or anything, a chief is a big deal. You make chief E7 in the Navy, you are you are highly respected and regarded amongst your peers. Okay, and then here he was actually a Navy recruiter too. So I have his name tag for that. And then, like I said, I inherited all these things here. This was his flight patch on his flight uniform. Okay. And my grandfather's first name was Richard, and that's my middle name. So I was actually named after him. And then here we have some medals from the war, from a few different wars. Now, some of these I know what they are, others I don't, because I have a National Defense Medal myself. And then anybody that's ever, served in the military during time of war has that. Here you have your World War II medal. And your, what is this one? Can't really read them all that well. Hold on. There you go. Occupation Service. Asiatic Pacific Campaign. And then the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign. So these are, and then these stars here, they signify that he was awarded these more than once. So if it has 3 stars on it, well, there you go. Speaks for itself, okay? The campaigns and so forth. And then here, this one on the end is the Air Medal. And that was issued to the men when they defeated the Japanese. And their ship was decommissioned. I actually have an article, a story on that. This is the Good Conduct Medal. I also have one of those. And you see how many he's gotten. Or he got, I should say, he was awarded. The American Defense Medal. I don't think they have that one anymore. And the American Campaign. So he was awarded several medals. And this was his unit here. So unit patch. Unit identification patch. Okay. And this one was mine when I was stationed in Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida. And anyway, again, that's my name tag there. And I just put all kinds of stuff up here. This is my dream car if I was Bruce Wayne, my Lamborghini. Like I said, what can I say? I'm a kid at heart. But anyway, and then I just went ahead and displayed these as well because, I no longer wear a uniform or anything. But these are ribbons, but some of them are medals. But here's the thing. Some you get awarded and some you don't. Some you have to buy. So these are the ones that I'd received, by serving. I got the Combat Action Ribbon, the Navy Commendation Medal, Good Conduct Medal, just for being a good boy, basically. um, National Defense. Like I said, they're ribbons, but they're also medals. Some of them, National Defense Medal. Um, and then you have what is this one? Oh, Unit Commendation. Um, this is the Southwest Asia Service Medal um, for being in the Fleet Marine Force. I was a Navy corpsman, but Marines don't have their own medical personnel. Most people probably know that. They use the Navy's. So that's what the Marine Corps Globe is there for, because I was assigned with the Marine Corps unit during Desert Storm. And that's the Southwest Asia Service Medal, which I no longer have. I actually buried it with my grandfather. But you have the Overseas Deployment Ribbon, the Sea Service Deployment Ribbon. I do not recall what this one is. That's the Kuwait Liberation Medal. There's your palm trees and your sabers there. And that's just a pistol qualification. So anyway, I wish I could remember what this one is. I'd have to look it up. Probably not important. But anyway, none of this is really important in the big scheme of things. But, and here's my little toy. Like I said, I'm a kid at heart. What can I say? Anyway, that's a Blue Angel. They're in Pensacola, Florida. So anyway, and then my grandmother actually made this. If you can't read it that well, it depends on. It's like an optical illusion. It says Jesus, but if you first look at it, some people say, "What does that say?" But if you look at the gray, it says Jesus, because my grandmother liked to crochet things. And this was actually made for me when I was in Desert Storm. At the time, I was in E3, so hospitalman is an E3. So, just until you return kind of thing. So I always kept that. And this was just a POW one. I never knew this man, never met this man, but he was a captain in Nam. And Charles L. Putnam is his name. He had been missing since March 9th of 1967. So anyway, okay, so why am I showing you all this stuff? Well, some of it I think is kind of cool to share, for people who are interested. And for other things, other people think that, military service, men and women that served in war or whatever, they're courageous. And in a lot of ways, that is true. That's not untrue, but there are all kinds of different kinds of courage, and I mean, I have a long tradition of military service in my family, not only from my grandfather, but I was raised in a military family. People don't know that. Most people probably do. My dad's retired master sergeant in the Army, E8. Probably could have gotten to sergeant major, E9, but politics and standing up for your rights, what you believe in, and so forth can stymie a man's career if other people don't agree or like it, and they can kind of shut you down a little bit from being promoted. And I think that's probably what happened to my dad. But anyway, a very successful, 24-year career in the Army, Master Sergeant E8, retired. So, and then my uncle, who passed away several years back, my uncle Bob, was a Green Beret in Nam. I'm not exactly sure how many tours he served, 3 or 4, I think. But he actually wound up training Green Berets as well. Very, very tough, hard man. Nice guy once you got to know him, but tough, hard man. Like I said, he was Green Beret in Nam, no joke. So highly decorated. And he passed away several years ago. So, like I said, a lot of military service, and people say, "Oh, that's very courageous. It's very interesting, or whatever." But the things that have been happening as of late, there's all kinds of different kinds of courage, I think, and this is what has been revealed to me, what I've experienced in my life, what I've seen, what I've just witnessed, observed, whatnot. And I believe there's 2 types of courage. I believe there's a moral courage and a physical courage. And this is what I've seen in my life. Most of the time, if people have a moral courage where they're going to stand up and do the right things against all odds, no matter what anybody says or thinks, because they know it's right in their heart. They know it's the right thing to do. They know it's the right thing to say. They just know that it's right. They know that they know that they know, you know. Those are the people that have moral courage. And most of the time, the people that have moral courage also possess physical courage, where they will be the one, you know, to take the bullet. They will be the one to sacrifice their lives for others, themselves for others. They'll be the martyr, so to speak. They'll be the one to make that ultimate sacrifice if necessary. You know, they're the ones that live the motto that no greater love is this, that is no greater love is there than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends, like Jesus said, right? So, and I've noticed that most of the time when people have moral courage, they also possess the physical courage. But it's not always the case with people who have physical courage. Because a lot of people I've known of, you know, as a police officer and so forth, you know, they may possess the physical courage, you know, to I don't know, to maybe save people's lives or to sacrifice themselves, but they do it for ulterior motives. They want their name in lights in the paper or whatever. They want the awards. They want the awards. They want the commendations. They want to further their career. They're ambitious or what have you. So they may possess the physical courage, but they may not always possess the moral courage. And sometimes the moral courage is tougher than the physical. Is harder than the physical courage to express, because you know, the moral courage has to do with peer pressure. The moral courage has to do with, you know, oh man, what are people going to think, and what are people going to say if I do this or I say this or I share this or I talk about this. And you know, you can't be concerned about that. um, that's the moral courage. And like I said, I've known of people that they possess the moral courage, and they usually also possess the physical courage. And I'll give you an example here. Lately, with you know, all of the reports and the information from the Uvalde shooting and so forth, I've researched that. I've studied it. I've listened to Mike Adams. I've listened to other things. I've seen some reports, some things that people sent to me. I've seen some video footage and so forth. And it reminds me a lot, unfortunately, of Columbine, because I was in Colorado at the time of Columbine. I wasn't a police officer at that time. I knew some police officers that were serving at that time, not necessarily on the scene at Columbine. But there was a lot of scrutiny after Columbine, and there should have been, to be honest with you, because it wasn't handled appropriately, just like this situation. And now, at the time, we didn't know so much about foxtrots, and so forth. And now we know that so many things are pre-planned, staged, crisis actors, this and that. And I'm not taking anything away from this. Not in any way. I know that people die. I know that people get hurt. I know that people get. It's a horrible, horrible situation. But then when you look at the aftermath of it, you know, and the stories come out, and you know, the bottom line is this, okay? If you're going to wear a badge, if you're going to take an oath, if you're going to carry a gun, if you're going to, you know, uh, swear to, you know, serve the public, you know, the greater good, you know, that means that you may have to lay down your life. That means you may have to put your life on the line for others. And if people aren't going to do that, then don't be in law enforcement. Don't be a police officer. Don't be a firefighter. Don't be anything in public service to where you may have to sacrifice yourself for others. And it was absolutely pathetic and cowardly and gutless and just a disgusting display for those police officers and law enforcement or whatever to stand outside while those children were being slaughtered. It was sickening. And it was a similar situation in Columbine that I found out later, because in the police academy we investigated Columbine and so forth and found out what exactly was going on. And see, and I thought that policies and procedures had changed, and maybe they just changed in certain states but not other areas and so forth. Because of all places, Texas, I could not believe the cowardice. You know, I was just in shock. the cowardice of these so-called police officers, law enforcement officials. And I know that it's Foxtrot. I get that, okay? I get it. Frank, whatever people want to call it. I get it, okay? But it's just disgusting, and not only to stand by while children are being slaughtered, but then to ultimately, you know, I don't get it. When people are trying to go in and rescue, or parents are trying to get their children or what have you, they're pepper spraying them, they're detaining them, they're cuffing them. I mean, to the point of arrest, to keep them from going in and say, "Oh yeah, well, I'm trying to save you from getting your child." I mean, give me a break, If a parent wants to go in and get their kid, and you're standing around doing nothing, I mean, at least let them make the attempt. I mean, what the heck are you waiting for? I mean, so obviously they were given stand down orders. This is sick. But you know what? When you understand the agenda, they want to kill kids, and they're going to continue to do it. And now they want to raise the school, just like Sandy Hook and the rest of these things. I mean, it's disgusting. It's sick. It's all about, Moloch, Baal worship, sacrificing of children and so forth. It's sick. It's disgusting. And, maybe I sound kind of harsh about this, but I'll tell you something, and I got to go here because it's getting kind of long. But I'll tell you something. I was involved in a shooting once. It was with a pellet gun. Didn't know that at the time, but it was with a pellet gun, and it was a mall shooting. Yeah, I was Paul Blart. I was a mall cop. And boy got shot point blank range in the stomach with a pellet gun. Fortunately, he wasn't injured horribly. Too bad. Didn't hit any vital organs or anything like that. But do you think I stood around and waited? I was working mall security at the time for the police to show up, no, no. And here's why. Because sometimes you have to react. Sometimes you have to respond. You know what I did? I chased the dude down. I caught him. I detained him. And I held him down. I held him down until the police arrived. And I scared the living hell out of him. Because he was a young kid. Young kid, stupid choice. But I took care of business. Not because I'm all that and a bag of chips or anything. It's because it was my job. It was my job to protect people. Whether people say, "Oh, no, it's not your job. You were a security officer," or whatever. Well, in my mind, it was my job. In my mind, I didn't want to see anybody else get hurt. In my mind, I didn't want to get hurt. And I didn't want to see anybody else get hurt. And so I handled it. I did what I had to do. I was trained. I knew what I had to do. And I handled the situation. And I took care of it until the police arrived. And then they took care of it from there. So I know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you got to respond. Sometimes you got to react. Sometimes you got to do the right thing. And the only way that people can do that is if they possess both moral and physical courage, like John Chow and so many other martyrs that continually fight the good fight and are willing to put their life on the line, no matter what the cost.